Hello, I'm the lawn therapist, and today I'd like to go over some interesting techniques to level your lawn. Unlike a lot of other optional videos that you'll see out there, I'm not going to be using hundreds or thousands of pounds or even tons and tons of soil in a shovel and wheelbarrow. Today I'm going to use a simple concept using the existing soil to actually level the lawn. First, we need to pull that existing soil by using a core aerator. And then afterwards, we will use a dethatcher to help break up those cores. And the dethatcher will also help kind of knock down some of those larger hills or high spots, I guess you'd call them. And there are some things to consider with this. I have a large lawn. I actually own my core aerator. I own a dethatcher. They're not expensive ones because I already owned a riding lawnmower. That riding lawnmower can pull them behind me. So what we're going to do is consider this. We have to have moisture in the ground to pull those cores. That or it'll just kind of stick in, come out, won't pull very good cores at all. Another thing is I had already been cutting the lawn a little bit lower. In fact, you can tell it's a bit stressed because I've been knocking it down from a summer cut of 3.5 to 4 inches to about 1.5 inches was my last cut. And so, but we want to pull up as much organic matter to get it out of the way so that we have more of the soil profile to kind of work with. And I'll kind of go over a little bit more of that in just a second. And here are some of the tools I'll be using today. A lawn spreader. A lawn mower with a bagger and some mulching blades. A pull behind core aerator. And a pull behind dethatcher. An angle grinder to sharpen the blades after we are complete. We've had rain for the last 2 days, pretty good amount, about 3/4 of an inch each day. So the soil is well saturated with water. Now the downside is still a little bit rainy. I did want to bag up this first cutting of the grass to get that nice low cut so that the core aerator will have a better job of pulling those cores. So we're going to give that a try despite it being a little bit on the wet side. Well, that was fun. So, the thing that I feared came true. The grass is wet enough that it wouldn't bag properly. So I ended up just letting it get clogged, cut the grass, went back through after I unclogged it, and raised the mower deck a couple clicks so that it would get a little bit more airflow and it didn't have to fight through the grass to cut it in the first place. And then I just sucked up those clippings and they get to go to the compost pile. Now, the next step is to do a light dethatching. Now, keep in mind, I don't have much thatch, but I do want as much debris out of the way because when we start breaking down the cores, that debris will actually start interfering with the soil from actually settling back down where I want it to. Okay, so that lifted up the debris from underneath the grass blades, and now I'm going to suck that up with the lawnmower, bag it, toss it in the compost pile. Then we're going to do a moderately aggressive core aeration. Keep in mind that my pull behind core aerators tines are about this far apart, so I have to do multiple passes. Even if they were this far apart, you're normally doing multiple passes anyway, so I'm going to do a lot of passes, bring up as much soil as possible. Okay, so now that we got the dethatcher raking up all of that debris at the soil surface, we have the core aerator attached and weighted down with a 100-pound bag of soybean meal, and it is ready to go. Remember, moist soil comes up in little plugs. Dry soil doesn't really come up very well. I've tried it, not very successful. So we're going to do that next. Okay, so heavily core aerated. Poked a hole every 2 inches or so, if not a little bit more. But again, pulled lots of plugs up, tore up that lawn. Now keep in mind I have Kentucky bluegrass. So if I tear it up a little bit, I got plenty of grass here to thicken up, spread rhizomously, and it will just be a thick, healthy lawn afterwards. But if you have turf-type called fescue or ryegrass, now would be a good time to overseed. I'm going to do some soil amendments. I'm going to be spreading some soybean meal and a little bit of biochar. Okay. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to be spreading some biochar followed by some soybean meal. Now the reason why I'm doing it now is because all those holes are open. I want to get that biochar towards the root system as much as I can. Now, if you didn't want to spread any amendments or anything like that, you just switch to the next step, which would be a heavy dethatching or heavy raking with a dethatcher. Okay? And now I'll be spreading the soybean meal. And now I'll be using the dethatcher to actually rake everything in and level things out, break up those cores and let everything settle down to the lowest spot. Now it looks absolutely terrible, but there is a lot of soil on the surface. It's all broken up. It's mixed up with some debris and some thatch. So what I'm going to do now is use my mulching blades and not suck things up, but break things up even further and try and let them settle down from there. Okay, so it's all kind of worked up, worked in, spread out. I'm gonna let it dry for the next day or so, let it do its thing, let things settle. I'll probably go back through it. Now, considering I was knocking things down and kind of tearing things up with the lawnmower blade itself, dirt and blades don't necessarily mix well. So I'll be sharpening the lawnmower blade maybe after the next time I kind of work through it. One other aspect is I don't use a lawn roller, especially since I have that heavy lawn tractor. What I actually end up doing is every time I make a pass, I have two tracks. The next pass, I try and go through the previous passes and then through the next previous pass. So more or less, each time I go around, I am leveling out the lawn with a lawn roller. The riding lawnmower itself weighs quite a bit more than what you'd buy in or rent at the store. I'll have a little push lawn roller for seeding projects and maybe some of those nooks and crannies. In this situation, I don't use it because the riding lawnmower weighs plenty enough to roll it out. Um, Still looks kind of awful, but if you do topsoil or sand and level it out, it's going to look awful for a few weeks anyway. This will actually look pretty good in about 1 week. Now, another thing is I did use a water soluble fertilizer about 4 or 5 days ago um, in anticipation for this process here. So I'm hoping that within the next day or two, that will continue to kind of work itself in, activate. The soybean meal will slowly break down. That's actually a fertilizer. It has like a 7:1:2 NPK ratio. It's slow release, and microbes love it. Soil life loves it, and I have a happy lawn that will thrive during summers. In this case, though, it will thrive for this fall. Okay, so the grass has been sitting on top of the lawn, along with some of the soil, the debris, sand, grit, that sort of thing. And so it's been there for the better part of the day. It's in the afternoon. I'm going to go over it one more time with a lawnmower to break up anything that might have been stuck in it because I did kind of work with some wet soil. That's the whole point of using the wet soil to pull the plugs. So we're going to go over it now that's been sitting out in the sun for the better part of the day. Now I'm going to rake these up. There's a reason I didn't use the bagger. I'm concerned that because there's still loose soil in that thatch and debris, that if I sucked it up, well, there went my soil, at least some of it. So I use the lawnmower to kind of continuously push it, tumble it, roll it thrash it around a little bit. And that way I feel more secure that what I rake up now goes to the compost pile, but it doesn't take the soil along with it. I knocked it down even further. At least that's what I've observed by doing this technique in the past.